Mittu, just speaking about, you know, what was expected, which is that you would start operating to Delhi in March.
Yes.
Is Delhi now on the horizon? Are you pushing back that further? Is Bombay on the cards? What's the story?
I think Delhi is very much in discussion. You know, I think part of it was...
So again, this discussion hinges on what happens to 520, is it?
Not necessarily, but it does hinge on our fleet plans and our expansion plans. But I think, you know, the reason we delayed Delhi initially was because of the fog season. And you see the number of delays that we took. We have a flight that goes from Bangalore to Chandigarh, and it was burdened with fog delays, and just felt that it wasn't the right time to do Delhi. But Delhi is always in discussion.
Okay, and again, when there is clarity on 5x20 is when we expect clarity on when you will fly to Delhi.
Yeah.
And Bombay off the table for now? Frankly,
Bombay, Delhi have never been interesting for us. It wasn't never our primary target. But, you know...
So which are the other underserved, exciting markets that you're looking at?
I think every Tier 2 city that you have. But, you know, as you hear Ram and Tony say, when the people are calling for it, you know, the number of requests we get for us to come to Delhi. Every time, if I'm walking around in Bangalore airport, if I'm in Delhi, in the airport...
And you have spent a lot of time in Delhi,
I have spent a lot of time. But
in Rajiv Gandhi Bhavan.
I have, yes. But, you know, as you're walking through security lines, you have CISF staff ask you, "Sir, you're from AirAsia? When are you coming here? We've heard your tickets are one of the cheapest." That's the kind of people we want to go for.
On tickets, what's going on as far as load factors and yields are concerned?
Well, our load factors have been, I think, brilliant. You know, we've been in the low 80s, and that's considering the fact that we have only 3 aircraft. Our utilization, yields are something we're happy with, but we see some room for us to improve there. And our utilization on those aircrafts, you know, at least 2 of them are sitting at about 13 hours.
Just to finish off on the operational part, because we are up for an FAA review, and the government is hoping that it will be able to meet the standards and we will get back to our FAA category. What has that meant for domestic carriers like you, Mittu?
Well, I think the FAA audit and that process has been, you know, it's been a long process. When we went through our AOP process, we were right in the midst of that audit, and I think DGCA was changing a lot of its own SOPs.
Because I know that Vistara's AOP was held up because of the changes that the FAA had asked for. So has that impacted you in any form of fashion?
Well, our AOP was delayed, not necessarily because of what DGCA was doing, but they were correcting on the go. So we had a new checklist which came in called the CAP 3100, and that was implemented after we had made some progress into the AOP process. As part of this, we're actually going through an AOP recertification right now. So the same process.
Is that just you, or is that everybody?
I think all airlines will be going through it, but I think we've been selected to go through it right now.
And has there also been additional audits of AirAsia India on account of what we saw happen, the December unfortunate incident? Has that meant more safety audits for AirAsia India?
Well, I can tell you that, you know, from a regulatory standpoint, DGCA has a fair amount of oversight from a safety standpoint. I think we've had checks from the regulators. They've had access to our data, our FOCA data. And you know, that's been constant. It's always been something that we're seeing.
You know, Tony, I want to talk to you about the regulatory environment, because you've spoken about this after what happened in December, saying that you need a coordinated regulatory mechanism across the ASEAN market. We're now talking about open skies in the ASEAN, but you need more coordinated regulatory action. Where do things stand, and do people really are people now moving towards that?
Certainly in Southeast Asia. You know, this is something I've been going on about for a while. And this is the persistence of trying to change things. In the last 3 weeks, I've been to 3 ASEAN conferences talking about a common sky, talking about common open sky, talking about common regulators. So it's moving, I think, in the right direction. I applaud what the DGCA are doing. Anything that will improve standards is better. And you know, I've been through the worst 60 days of my life. There's nothing to say AirAsia was at fault or whatever, but we're not waiting to see whether it's our fault, not our fault, whatever.
What are you changing?
We're just checking everything we can possibly look at. Our training manual is done by Airbus, always has been, but we're relooking at that. We've asked third parties to order engineering. We've even asked airlines in different parts of the world to come and have a look at it. So we're transparent, we're very open. Safety is nothing. You can't say you're a safe airline. Safety is a marathon.
Yeah.
You've got to keep looking and keep reinvesting and keep looking at it.
Mr. Ramodarai, there's something else which is interesting that's happening at this point in time, with the government for the first time putting on record that it's looking at strategic divestment. We don't know what the strategic divestment will eventually mean, but if one could speculate, ideal candidates would be the likes of Air India, MTNL, BSNL, companies that have been struggling, companies that the government doesn't really want to give up on entirely, would hope to revive at some point in some fashion. Would the Tatas be interested in Air India? I know in the past Mr. Tata has spoken about it, but if strategic divestment was to come Air India's way, would you be takers?
No, I think any strategic disinvestment by the government, Tatas have always looked at it, and that was the reason when we bought BSNL or CMC when I was the CEO of TCS. I think we will look at anything that the government offers. That's the right thing to do, to look at it. Whether we will do it or not is anybody's guess. But I think companies like Air India have a lot of baggage. Everyone knows about it. It's not something that I'm letting out a secret or anything. So I think we've got to look at it in the right context. What is the kind of responsibility you're carrying when an offer for sale happens from a company like that?
But with that kind of debt and legacy, would it make strategic sense?
To me, if you ask me, probably no. But then it's for Tata Sons to look at it, or the Tata Group to look at it. But I think with our joint venture that's going on with AirAsia and Telstra, and the Vistara, which is a Tata Singapore Airlines joint venture, we can build enough capacity, enough passenger traffic, affordability, and a world-class airline from both. I think the lesser restrictions are there for us to grow, the better we will perform. Traditionally, I've always been a believer in organic growth, and I've demonstrated it over my lifetime in Tata's. And that will be my first choice at all times.
Well, there is regulatory uncertainty at this point in time, and hopefully we will have clarity sooner rather than later. But and you're saying you can continue to remain committed to the Indian aviation market besides ATF, and of course at this point in time there's good news on that front, but perhaps the cuts haven't been as significant as they ought to have been, given the way that global commodity prices have come off.
Well, I think, Shereen, people like you should fly AirAsia. Narrate that experience.
You have to fly to Delhi, sir, for me to be able to fly AirAsia.
No, you can fly from here to Bombay or here to Pune.
Okay.
Bangalore to Pune.
Okay. We'll do. But
just before we go back, I knew I had one more thing to say on government. I think that it's great if there's disinvestment and from state-owned enterprises. I've been advocating that in Southeast Asia. Government should facilitate business, not be in business. And the big problem in Asia is many governments own national carriers, and so you're kind of conflicted, right? If I allow more competition, am I hurting this? So we advocate very strongly in Southeast Asia that government should facilitate. And if you put people first, I keep saying that, will the people benefit by AirAsia, Vistara, Shereen Airways coming in and opening up new routes, new markets? Then the decision becomes very easy to do.
Let me end by asking you, given the regulatory uncertainty, is it pause mode for AirAsia India till we actually see clarity from the government on what the new 5x20 is going to be? Let me call it that.
I don't think it's going to be pause mode, because we got the 4th aircraft which is about to go into the service soon, and then we got the 5th one which is coming in 3 weeks, by which time I think we would get clarity on that.
Mr. Ramodarai, Tony and Mittu, appreciate you joining us. We wish you the very best of luck. It's going to be a tough battle, not just because of the regulation, but because of the aviation market in general, which is it's a complex one and a volatile one. But thanks very much for joining us here on
you know the best thing about India?
What?
You got 1 billion people. There's not many countries that have that.
It's not many countries that have them. Thank you very much for joining us.